perfect time of day where the clouds have rolled in, but it's not raining. And when we don't get our afternoon cloud cover in Florida, it may as well be Arizona. So we're going to do a quick check-in with Rafalko. And we've been doing a lot of groundwork, not as much riding, just because the weather has been getting pretty hot, or it's going to start raining. So where I left off with him, I think, is this sort of habitual little bit of extra curling through the neck is indicating that he doesn't feel quite stable through his back and hindquarters. So that over curling of the neck and dropping of the pole, if I'm not creating it by even having a rein contact, I have to ride him on very loose reins. What that is showing me is that that extra bit of holding through the neck is directly related. So if I let my body go, you can kind of see how much he swings the saddle and sort of drops me on this right side. So all that movement through my seat is coming from the use of his back. And so I've been playing with just loose, kind of imperfect figures of 8. The turning, if I keep myself level and keep his neck straight during the turn, it really encourages him to start using the inside hind leg to stabilize his movement and find his balance more in the hindquarters than the neck. So I have to watch my time. We're just going to look at how he's starting off, because he's been ending his sessions better and better, but he still starts off with this slightly over-curled neck and kind of a wobbledy, asymmetrical feeling under the saddle. And he also goes quite slow, which is right now actually the good news. What he used to do is when he would lose his hindquarters and disengage, he would go faster and faster, and we invariably wound up trotting as our warm-up because that was the only place he could find stability. He had almost none in the walk. So he's worked mostly, because it's more of an engagement issue than it is a straightness issue. I've worked him a lot on these tighter turns with the level back, with the neck straight, and just keep trying to build up the core strength and the muscles around the hindquarters. Getting the placement of the hind legs a little bit deeper. I know something's going on at the neighbors. And I feel the step of each hind leg under the saddle, but it also feels shaky. So what that tells me is he's got the minimal amount of engagement we need, but he doesn't feel stable enough with that engagement to the point that he can really lengthen the top line muscles all the way through the neck, which would give me a straighter and softer neck, even if he falls into long and low. So this is our kind of beginning. He's always starting off better. Like, he starts off the ride with a little more stability than the time before, but it's still very much a work in progress. And when circumstantially, because of the weather or the heat or whatever, when I have to do more groundwork with him, it takes several rides. The groundwork is beneficial, but he always progresses faster if I ride him. So if for one reason or another I can't ride him, don't have the time to ride him, I do the groundwork to keep him going. But when I get back on, I feel like he's improved the placement of the hind legs, but he's also gotten a little bit unstable. So my weight as a rider and how I use my body really helps this horse use and stabilize his hindquarter and back. And that's what makes that's why he progresses faster the more I ride him and the less I do groundwork. And that's unique to him. Not all horses are that way. In fact, Hercules is sort of the opposite. Excellent. So there I'm still feeling the hind legs in the right place, but shaky. And so we're just going to keep going. I have to keep shifting my weight against that sort of tilting force through the saddle, which is the tightening of the back muscles and the instability of the spine. It creates that asymmetrical rolling sensation or tilting sensation. And then very loosely with my reins, I have to guide the turn a little bit because he's not yet stable in his hindquarters. And I have to use the reins to also try to keep the head and neck in a straight line to my seat bones, to the back. And that is what actually guarantees the appropriate adduction and abduction of the legs. So as a rider, I focus on the neck remaining straight, the back remaining level. I let him choose his speed right now because engagement is a struggle. And as long as he's not stopping, the slowness of his walk is because he's restoring the full function of his hind legs. And they were very dysfunctional when we started. He had no stability under the saddle or engagement or deep placement of the hind legs. So that's what we had to rebuild. And we're both sweating just walking at this pace. So this is like the perfect summertime kind of catch-up work. And so we haven't been able to play with the trot or canter very much, which we were doing on the ground, just because the heat, the blowing starts, everybody gets too hot, and it's just not worth the risk. So when we slow things down, whether it's on the ground or under saddle, I can focus on the details of the coordination. And the coordination of the skeleton is what dictates the muscle use. So I don't have to work at trot or canter to build muscle, right? I do to get cardiovascular fitness, but that's completely different than which muscles are used, how the muscles are used, and all the soft tissues in the body. That's directly related to how well he coordinates the spine and the hindquarters. Well, especially the back, including the rib cage. So my figure eight, I'm starting to see my tracks and follow this footprint, but he's pretty wobbly. So I think I'm going to stop the video there, and maybe we'll try to pick it up after you make some changes.